I've always been interested in trying out the DMC games, the main reason being my best friend. He'd always tell me that I should give these games a try. I've wanted to since high school, but I never got around to it, until I saw the games on sale recently on the PlayStation Store. I finally caved in and bought the whole main series for around $40. This means a couple of things. This review is coming from a newcomer to the series, so I'll probably judge the game more harshly than the people who grew up playing it. I'm also not very skilled, so while I try not to let my skill level affect my judgment, it will most likely play a part in my criticisms. One final point of note is that I am playing these games in their story order, not their order of release. This may affect my thoughts on the earlier games, although I will definitely try to treat them as standalone and only compare where I think it's fair. With that out of the way, let's get into this genre-defining game. Let's start with the story. DMC3 is the first game in the timeline, and as such we see an even cockier, ruder Dante. Dante steals the show from the very first cutscene, cracking jokes and having a blast, and this continues throughout the game for the most part. Dante does some pretty cool things, but if I'm going to be honest, he's kind of a dork. He never stops calling the situation a party.
Are you going to the party?
And he's full of that early 2000s cool guy personality. This doesn't detract from the story, as it is obvious we aren't supposed to take the story seriously. In fact, I never really took the story seriously. I mean, Lady's cool and all, but the story's too short and honestly doesn't do much to get the player to care about it. I turned my mind off when plot-heavy cutscenes popped on for the most part, but I did pay attention when one of the two things happened. One is that Dante does some cool or dorky shit. His charisma is off the charts in this game, whether he is getting capped Abraham Lincoln style, or beating baddies with a fucking motorcycle. I wish that was a weapon. The second thing is Virgin. Now the game isn't complete without Vigil, who acts as an awesome foil to Dante. Vegetable is one of the two who raises this tower, and is attempting to open the demon world to the human world. He hungers for power due to his reverse Oedipus complex. Whereas Dante wants to be more human, Virginia wants to be more of a demon like his daddy Dearest. He's pretty cool, filling out the anime tropey character that is required of Japanese games. This isn't a rip on the character, as I believe tropes become tropes for a reason. The dynamic between these two is endlessly entertaining, and is even reflected in the boss fights, which I will get into later. While I can't really give credit to the story, the character interactions are another thing. It's strong here with Dante and Viable. I was actually going through the game with the intention to face Vegeta to face him off again, because I knew the fights, cutscenes, and aftermath would be entertaining. But like I said, story isn't important here. If you want to check out good stories, then head over to audible.com. There are 4 styles to play with and 2 that are unlocked later. I stuck with Swordmaster style the whole time, as I like having the extra attack options. I experimented with some of the others post-game, but Swordmaster is my go-to. Without having another DMC game to compare to, I gotta say, wow! Dante is so fun to control during combat. His attacks are smooth and fun to chain into each other. See, the way the combat works is that you have one button dedicated to your basic attacks, one button for guns, and one button for style actions. This is deceptively simple, as you can delay your basic button presses to perform different moves. You can also spend red orbs to unlock different attacks, which are done by pressing triangle in different directions while locked on and off. At the end of it all, there's so much Dante can do with just the triangle button, and locking onto an enemy. I never felt overwhelmed though, because of how simple it was to execute these attacks. I am aware that there are advanced attacks that my blood-oil brain can't perform, but I think it is best to look at this game through a first blind playthrough. The Devil Arms are weapons you earn from defeating various bosses in the game. There are 5 in total, and they are all fun. You start with Rebellion, they get really fun ice nunchucks, then fire and wind dual blades, then an electric guitar, then some gauntlets and boots. All of these are fun to use and play. They might work differently too, Beowulf having charge attacks and the nunchucks not having an attack to pop enemies into the air. The game has something here for everyone. Besides the Devil Arms, Dante has an assortment of different guns. I stuck with the dual guns and shotgun for most of the game, only really switching out the shotgun for Lady's rocket launcher. In my experience, they don't really do much besides constant chip damage. Shotgun does knock enemies down though, and it's a must for the blood goyles. The most use I see out of them is to aid you in filling up the style meter. Let me explain the style meter. The style meter is a gauge that goes up by mixing up your attacks and not getting hurt. Basically, how stylish are you being? I found this meter to add so much to the gameplay, since it encourages the player to switch up your attacks and keep things fresh. I know that once the meter starts going down, I gotta try something new, via switching my weapons and doing a variety of attacks. You don't have to do this, but it feels so much better when you do. The game lets you have 2 devil arms and 2 guns to switch between at all times. I find this to be the perfect number for weapon switching, so as to not overwhelm a player, although here's where I will point out some issues. 1. You cannot change your devil arms, guns, or styles mid-mission. You have to go through one of the golden statues if you want to change your loadout, and they are not tossed around everywhere. Basically, what you chose at the start of the mission is what you are stuck with. I would have liked to be able to change up my style mid-combat, a la Yakuza 0 style, since that would have encouraged me to try the other styles. But the game does not let you do it. I am aware of the Switch version letting you do this, but I would rather get a 4-pack than pay for one older game at about the same price. The second problem here is that the game is pretty stingy with red orbs. I get that you can grind for them, but it didn't do this. See, I'm not very good at these games, at least I didn't unlock easy mode through Cerberus. So I spent it all on Rebellion and Cerberus, the rest going into blue orbs or a healing item when I really felt the need for one. I also spent a little on Agni and Rudra, since I really like those weapons, but I stuck with Cerberus as my secondary weapon. While more experienced players may not see this as being stingy, newer players, or even intermediate level players, will have a hard time trying out the new weapons that don't grind for them. The weapon switching isn't the end of the variety though, as Dante has one more trick up his sleeve, the Devil Trigger. Devil Trigger is basically a short super state where your attacks are sped up and you are invincible. You can still be knocked back though, so be careful in deciding what attacks you tank. You can extend the time through buying purple orbs at the statue shop. Devil Trigger can help you in a pinch, so use it! The last thing to note is the camera during combat. It's good. Heck, the game actually has the enemies programmed to attack you only if they are on camera. In a time where devs are still struggling with cameras, this was a smart decision. That's basically it for the beautiful combat control. Next up is exploration. Dante is pretty dang slow. The levels aren't long, and if anything, they are pretty cool looking. See, you're basically exploring one big interconnected area across multiple missions, and the camera angles chosen brilliantly add to the gravitas of certain locations. I'll admit that I got lost a couple times. The game isn't very good at pointing you in the right direction at times, and it was at these times where Dante's speed, or lack thereof, was a detriment. But many of these times were just because I wasn't paying attention to some text. Dante has a very stiff jump that really doesn't see much use outside of combat, but this becomes a problem later because some idiot decided TikTok Clock was peak level design. Gotta love it when a platforming game has a platforming section it wasn't built for. Remember the time Mario had a stealth section? Remember when Metroid had a go-kart section with baby Metroids? Remember when Sonic had a beat-em-up part? Oh, that's right, they really did that. Like I said, the levels are short and you won't be lost for the most part. The levels start getting bad towards the end of the game though, and it became a chore to play this game because of it. Now we get to the enemy design, or lack thereof. See, you can tell when an enemy has been built with Dante in mind. Besides greed, the 7 hells are really fun. The archers aren't annoying, but will mess you up if you don't manage them. The spiders can block a little too much, but they're still a good time. Everything else though is a pain to fight. You can pop off the chest pieces into the air, but the only really bad ones are the bishop and queen. They honestly really are just a little boring. The blood goyles are annoying, and even though I'm fine with enemies that require specific strategies, they put these flying periods out too often and in swarms. They also have an enemy who is basically a boo from Mario, but these guys phase out too quickly when you turn around for the kill. Oh, but this isn't the worst one. Who was in charge of designing the Fallen? These guys literally float away the whole time, and they phase through walls. They have a shield you have to break. Dante wasn't built to handle this. Why? Looking back on my experience, you don't encounter these enemies as much as the 7 hells, which is perfectly fine by my book. Problems persist with the bosses. I enjoyed bosses like Cerberus, Agni and Rudra, Virgo, and Beowulf because they know what Dante is capable of and are fun for that. They feel like powerful regular enemies who have their weaknesses and exploits. I had a light bulb moment when I realized that Agni and Rudra can hit each other, and that you can parry their attacks to make them temporarily vulnerable to your soul. I'd consider Neven good too, but at least to me she takes too long. Also, her "come here sugar" line gets annoying super quick. Really. It's a good tell, but it's really annoying. Every other boss goes from meh to garbage, however. Especially Arkham. I actually decided to grind Holy Waters for Arkham, because he is shit. Literal purple ass Grimer looking shit. He's got stupid missiles you can't see half of the time, and during the second phase of the fight, you can't use Devil Trigger or your style action. Why? It was so damn frustrating and it made me reach my breaking point. At least the final boss saves the experience from being a very challenging yet fair fight. See? The good parts in DMC3 are really good, but the bad parts are really, really bad. It was clear that the devs learned a lot through previous experiences with the series, the good and the bad, but they still did not quite understand what the players should face as a challenge. With this being considered the peak, I am a little cautious to the other games aside from 5. I have to mention the music. It's okay. Yeah, go ahead, kill me in the comments. It's okay. A lot of the tracks are very samey, and nothing really stands out aside from the Cerberus boss theme, which is super aggressive and intense. Go give it a listen. I also appreciate that the first battle theme basically insults you for being bad. Nice touch. But like I said, nothing special with the soundtrack, honestly. It's when you hear one song, you've heard the rest of them. Overall, I consider Devil May Cry 3 to be good for the most part, with quite a bit of major blunders. I recommend playing it since it does set a lot of standards for hack and slash games to come. The bad moments are just that, moments, so don't let those drag your experience down when the rest of the game is pure high octane fun. If you stuck around throughout the whole vid, thank you. I plan on covering the rest of the series, so look forward to that if you like this video. I do have to tell you though that you shouldn't subscribe based off this video. I don't typically make content like this, although this could change. With that said, thanks for watching, and have a good one.